I'm not going to say any more than that. A year ago, sent me some pictures of human mutilations from Argentina, Brazil, the rainforest, and a few other places. And they all had the same description of, the same type of thing. It was done to them. Except one thing. They had puncture wounds on them. And it like their internals were somehow sucked through these puncture wounds. That's what they surmised. But again, if they're experimenting with people, like I was mentioning, James, and you know it, we talked about this with a couple other people this past week. There's been 30 to 50,000 people missing just in our country each year. The FBI comes to a conclusion, no, they're not murder cases. We just don't know what happened to them. And this has been going on year after year after year. Where are these people going to? And not just in our country. It's happening in the UK. It's happening in Canada. It's happening all over the world. People are vanishing with no records of where they gone to. We could have a lot of serial killers out there, but not that many.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
And another thing, you have to look at the facts on these mutilations. There's always a consistent pattern: missing blood, the genitals or the reproductive glands or organs are missing. The eyeballs are always gone. Maybe part of the cheek. It's always the same pattern throughout. And I think that some of that even may be the same with the humans. So these are the clues, but now what does it lead to? And as far as the missing people, Alaska alone, you wouldn't believe the percentage missing in Alaska compared to the population is way, way above the norm. And that body of mass of 60,000 people a year, that's a big body of mass to just disappear.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, there's a lot of anomalous disappearances there. As a cautiously skeptical guy, my first thought is, okay, then what data leads us to the extraterrestrial?
None.
And
none. That's the whole point. There's none.
There's certainly a lot of anomalous aspects of these cases, but what do we know that would lead us to directly the extraterrestrial?
Nothing. But the point is, 20 years ago, if I wanted to hide away from people before the internet, it was easy. You could go create a new identity and hide, and it'd be really hard to find somebody. Now, because of the internet and technology, you can't really hide because they're going to find you no matter what. You're going to do something that's going to trip where you're at. It's almost impossible nowadays to disappear. Now, when you're talking 30 to 50,000 a year that the FBI says we don't know where they went to. We have no idea. That is kind of really scary. Now, a lot of people claim that they're abducted, okay? And I use the word claimed because there's no proof that they were abducted. How about maybe, and they were fortunate, they were returned. How about maybe people being abducted and not returned? Is that maybe where 30 or 50,000 people in our country are going every year? I don't know. There's no proof one way or the other. Something is out there. Yeah. Something's happening to people.
Yeah, it's so hard to prove. We can speculate, and it may come down to this goes back to the UFO topic. It may be some combination of theories. Everything we've discussed here about the missing people, about human mutilations, about cattle mutilations. Some percentage of each of those scenarios may be explained by each a certain theory. A certain percentage may be alien. A certain percentage may be government. A certain percentage may be serial killers or individuals that just want to disappear from society. They just want to be gone and live other lives or what have you. So, at least when it comes to the UFO issue, I don't think one theory explains all the data. I don't think so. I think it's some conglomeration of all these different thought processes that may end up giving us some answers to what's going on. And you may extend that to other aspects of the paranormal. You may extend that to cryptozoology. You may extend that to cattle mutilations, crop circles, what have you. We don't know. It can be very frustrating trying to attempt to attack a problem, being unable to find any answers. That's very difficult. But at the very least, it's anomalous things are happening.
Something is going on, I can tell you that. You know, if you talk to a Bigfooter about Bigfoot, you know what they say? They're tied in with UFOs and aliens. I mean, the whole thing is just all over, everywhere. And that makes it even harder when people's minds are all shifting. Like Mothman or Lizard Man, that's tied in with UFO. It's getting confusing here.
It is, yeah, it is. I mean, I get a lot of pushback in the UFO community because I don't speculate. My question is always, what does the data show? What does the evidence show, or the lack thereof? I rarely speculate, other than like in conversations like this where we'll talk about different possibilities and everything's on the table. We don't know. There may be a connection. We just don't know. But the problem with speculation, at least in the public eye, or the way the public does it, is that speculation becomes belief, and people get very set in their beliefs. They become, like you said, closed-minded. So an individual that believes UFOs have something to do with Bigfoot will tend to believe that so strongly that that's the conclusion they've drawn, and they won't change their mind. They're closed-minded about that. Instead of saying, well, that's a possibility, let me do some research and find out, is that a distinct possibility, or does the data show that, or what have you? That doesn't happen. People tend to attach themselves to a certain belief, and then they just go with it, and instead of doing their homework. So, again, it's difficult.
It's hard. When I interview, and I've interviewed a lot of people that claim through the years that they were abducted, I believe a very small percentage of the guests I've had on, because a lot of them will go down the rabbit hole and they'll say things without realizing that I think what happens is a lot of people, maybe have emotional problems. A lot of people have been brainwashed, from Star Wars, Star Trek, all these shows, about UFOs, being out in space, that how can I say it? It becomes so much of their life that they confuse reality, dreams with, what they've been brainwashed from watching through the years. But then I get those other people like Calvin Parker or Timothy Collin, who actually physically had an implant removed from the late Dr. Roger Lear. There was something there that was sent out and analyzed, and it had metal that could have been compounded on Earth, but the other metal, the silver, according to all the tests that was done, could have not been compounded in the form with the other metals on this planet that we know of. And and how did it get into him in the first place? So to me, I do believe some people are being abducted. And when you interview them and you get to know them, you can tell, right, James, that they're going through emotional stress. That after you get to know them, it comes out.
It does. You can feel it. You can feel it in their voice and their words. They're not lying. They've got serious post-traumatic stress from experiences they've had, and sometimes they don't even want to talk about it, but yet they want to talk about it, so they're having an internal battle, and then they've got to go to bed every night wondering, is this one of the nights they're going to come get me and teleport me through a wall? That alone is very post-traumatic, not to mention when they get you there, if they're doing whatever it is they're doing, who knows? It's very traumatic. You can feel it in their voices when they talk.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, people are reporting experiences that are extremely emotional, extremely traumatic. They're suffering internally, having to deal with this issue, having to wrap their head around what went on, or what they perceive went on, and whether any or what percentage of these abduction accounts are actually extraterrestrial. Regardless of that, these individuals are experiencing something that really changes their life. They're suffering. At the very least, they want to get it off their chest and discuss what they feel they went through. And sometimes that's enough. A lot of individuals I've spoken to here in San Antonio have experienced something anomalous, and they just want to talk about it. They don't even want an investigation done. They don't even want an answer. They just want to get off their chest. They want to know that they're not crazy, and that's enough for them. Clearly, there's thousands of people that are going through traumatic experiences in their lives and are torn emotionally, trying to deal with this before even crossing the bridge to wanting to discuss this with strangers or researchers. Gentlemen, you're right. It's very traumatic, and it's a separate issue from are the accounts actually describing extraterrestrial contact. That's a separate issue, but the individuals reporting these things are clearly going through a traumatic experience.
Oh, yeah. Even if it was done from a black ops or whatever, we don't know. But they went through something. What I find, after the late Dr. Roger Lear passed on, he didn't actually he oversaw the surgery, but he had a surgeon on staff that would, they all donated their time in this. And the surgeon would actually be the one removing the implant. But it's funny, after he died, it all of a sudden stopped. Nobody's, removing implants anymore. You're not hearing anything about it. But there was a lot of these implants that were removed, and it tells you something was going on. And we just don't, again, we're surmising. We don't know what it is, but it's not normal. That's what's interesting.
Yep. Yeah, very much so. Yeah. In the UFO community, the discussion gets a little bit off track because I've made blog postings on my blog page and commented about we need to examine the evidence. And I recall one individual who shall remain unnamed didn't like that term. He said, you shouldn't use the word evidence. And I asked him why. I said, we have no evidence of alien contact. And I said, I don't mean evidence in that way. What I mean is we have evidence that events have transpired. We have evidence that anomalous things have gone on. We don't know what the cause is, but we know events have happened. We know these things have happened to these people. We just don't know the cause. But that term is kind of skewed in the community. The actual meaning is kind of lost. So there is evidence. There is solid evidence that things have transpired, that anomalous events have happened to individuals either on a personal basis or they've seen a UFO in the sky or they've experienced an abduction kind of scenario. So we have data and evidence to show these things are going on. We just have no answers as to what's going on. Are all of them extraterrestrial? Of course not. That would be a ridiculous statement. But could a certain percentage be explained by the extraterrestrial? Sure, certainly, possibly, yeah. But we don't have enough data or evidence to get to that point. Maybe we will in the future. But at least, we should embrace the fact that things are going on we can't explain. And that's fascinating by itself. When it gets to the abduction phenomenon, it's troubling because it's affecting individuals on a personal basis. And that's a little different than seeing a light in the sky. That's a lot less personal than having an implant surgically removed out of your body. That's a little more in your face.
Oh yeah. Hey, guess what? We're coming on the top of the hour. We got another half an hour with William Pullin. Do you have any cases you would like to share when we come back after break?
Okay, we can do that.
Okay, great. We'll be back in about 2.5 minutes with William Pullin, with James and myself on Night Dreams Talk Radio After Dark.
With a focus on hypnotize and spell, he memorized laws to help sharpen his claws for a future for which he was bent. The time would surely come when for office he would run and claim he was just heaven sent.
Another politician has just taken center stage. He tells all the people that he loves them so. He comes on like a sage, says with him they should engage. A false prophet selling endless empty prose.
He stepped over dead bodies on his climb to the top. The highest post was his aspiration. But he forgot to read the fine print in the contract that he signed, which caused a U-turn to his final destination. He continued on his pathway of destruction and decay, never thinking that his wicked life would end.